What Crossings does for people who are not preachers is that it allows them to hear a good sermon, even if one might not be preached.
All of my imperfections, being smart for generosity.
It's become such a way of life for me.
Crossings is not a sect of Christianity. Crossings is a tool that we use to understand Christianity.
A way of understanding life. It's a lens.
It really is good, and it is something new.
I tend to be younger than many of the people here, but I don't think that thought process is necessarily dependent on age. I found out about Crossings through my brother-in-law who has worked with the site and who has written as well. So I found out about Crossings using the website primarily. I would look at the text studies and the blog, formerly known as Thursday Theology, and I found that immensely helpful for my ministry. And then while perusing the website, I saw they had this link that said conference. So I clicked that, and there was a conference, and it said First Call Pastors free, and I thought this sounds good. And so I went, and I found it immensely helpful. I love to do law gospel theology, but I find in my own thoughts I can get in a rut. I end up doing the same thing over and over again, it feels, and when I come here I find other people who are doing similar work, but it helps me get out of my own mind, and it helps me to preach the gospel in ways that are fresh. So I came to the conference probably because I'd been before this time. I came this time because I'd gone to the last conference and I found it one of the most useful continuing education events that I've done. Often I found continuing education events to be they're good, but I don't feel like I have had my brain stretched, challenged, used. This helps me to think deeply. It helps me to think new thoughts, and I find it very enriching in that way. If Crossings ceased to exist, I would be very sad. I cherish it as a resource for my ministry. I cherish it for the depth of thought that it brings to the small branch of law and gospel theology that apparently not too many are doing, though it's so central to the Lutheran understanding of how God interacts with the world. I would lament that, but I would also know that there will be people doing this theology somewhere, and I would seek to engage those people and seek to take what I have learned here and continue with it. The way that media has been, particularly social media, has been used of late as a means of self-justification that people have done, and how, anytime you use self-justification, you're in turn seeking to avoid any other sort of justification. So avoiding God's saving justification that is given to us in Jesus Christ. So I'm taking home with me a renewed sense of how we encounter Jesus in the brokenness that we see in our world and in the way of our nation going today. And in fact, we see the brokenness of our neighbors and see that as something for which God has also died, just the same as God has chosen to become like me and die for me in my stead. And it's a renewed call to community with those with whom I disagree. Probably the ones I dislike the most, they're the very ones to whom God has sent Christ, and therefore God has also sent me.